Welcome to TMZ Live. We had an unbelievable reaction to our interview yesterday with congressional candidate Dan Bilzerian, especially with remarks he made about the incumbent, Randy Fine, whom he called a fat Jew. And we got into it with him. The reaction we're getting online, and we're talking thousands of people commenting, was not so much against...
Well over 10,000.
Not so much against Bilzerian as me.
I think there were people who took umbrage with how you set up one particular argument with him. If you missed it, this is what happened.
When you say that this fat Jew, you could take another race and you could use another epithet, but you're anti-Semitic, Dan.
I'm not. I have Jewish friends.
Oh, some of your best friends are Jewish?
Paint all Jews with one brush, but he paints all Muslims with one brush, and it's accepted. And for some reason in this country, it is okay to just blast Muslims, bash them. You look at what Bill Maher said about Muslims. I mean, it's this double standard, and I don't like the double standard. And I look at him as a Jewish supremacist. He believes that, Jews are better than other people, and he puts Israel before America. And so I have huge problem with that.
So if you've got a black friend that you don't like, do you use the N-word on him?
No, I don't.
Then what's the difference when you use the word fat Jew for a Jew you don't like?
Well, is Jew the same as because that is not that's not, one is a slur, right? And one is describing a religion. So you can't compare the two.
Well, apparently people agree with Dan.
Oh, I think what they agreed with and what they took umbrage with was that, and I know you're going to say it's not a competition, but that saying fat Jew does not carry the same weight as the N-word, which, yes, it was shocking to hear Dan actually say the word. We had to bleep it. But in his defense, he was not hurling it at anyone. He was making he could have said N-word, it would have been fine. But that was the point. Yeah. That people feel that and they're not the same, and you're right. That phrase and the word.
You're right. And that's one of the problems I have with a lot of people. It ain't a competition, guys. The idea is prejudice. And it's simply showing that you can have prejudice with that framework, which is if you don't like somebody, you can use a derogatory term against the people as opposed to the person. And it has nothing to do with it's not about one is worse than the other. Well, and that's what's happening in our society. Everybody thinks, oh, no, your prejudice is worse than this prejudice. It's not about that. It's that it's not right on either case.
Harvey, yes, neither is right.
Right.
I agree with you on that. The point that, and a lot of people are making this point, and I agree with, is that one of those is a word that carries a weight that we all are aware of. Right. And the other is a phrase that
it's anti-Semitic.
Yes, it is anti-Semitic, but it does not have a history.
It does have a
history. By the way, one of them we have to bleep.
I know.
The other phrase we don't have to bleep. Well,
by the way, that should tell you something right there. If it's taking a race or a religion or a sexual orientation and you are painting people with a brush that is, less than flattering, it becomes prejudice. And the point is, and I will say it again, it ain't a competition, and I stand by what I said. Okay.
That being said, let's bring in the congressman who was the target of Dan Bilzerian's comment and is the man he will be running against in a primary. They are both running for the 6th congressional district in Florida. Randy Fine is right now the sitting congressman for that district, and he is joining us right now. Congressman, welcome to TMZ Live.
Thanks for having me.
So what do you think about what Dan Bilzerian said? He called you a fat Jew.
Well, look, thanks for having me. I've had people call me names my entire life. It doesn't bother me. I think it's part of the territory, unfortunately, of being Jewish in America. But perhaps, Harvey, to try to explain where you were coming from, when you refer to me or someone that way, it's not being stated to make a statement of fact. It's being stated as a slur. He's making that statement, not that I'm a Jew because it's factual. He's making that statement because he views that as some sort of negative thing. Now, I'd never heard of this guy before until a couple of days ago, but having watched your interview, it's clear that he simply doesn't like Jews. In America, you're allowed to do that. I don't think it's going to work out to become a congressman having that perspective.
So I hear you that, and in fact, we said that yesterday in talking about the phrase that Dan used, that you can take a word, in fact, you could say blacks in a certain way and it's okay. But you can say it another way and it is very clear that you're saying it as an epithet, right? So I get you on that. What's odd, Congressman, is that during our conversation with Dan Bilzerian, he brought up the fact that he called you an Islamophobe and said that you tweet about things all the time and you tweet things that are racist. And he asked us, is that okay? I said, no, it's not okay.
I agreed.
And
I agreed with you that
yes,
it's not
and you
okay.
agreed that it's not okay. And I went and looked up some of the things that you've been quoted as saying, and I got to say, Dan Bilzerian's right. I mean, unless you want to say these were incorrect, but we need more Islamophobia, not less. Fear of Islam is rational.
Mass expulsion. Muslim leaders are terrorists. Starve away. Advocating nuclear action.
Actually, I imagine that when President Trump said that there was going to be an entire civilization wiped out, based on this, I would say you were cheering that.
Well, look, I think you've taken a lot of different things and you've smushed them together. I don't know that you've provided the context for any of them. What I would say is this. Unlike Dan Bilzerian, I guess, who's talking about Jews as though they're all negative, I don't believe that all Muslims are bad. I think many are good. I think the difference is that also doesn't mean that I think that no Muslims are bad. And if you look at what's happened since the conflict with Iran began, 5 American Muslims in 4 states launched 4 separate terrorist attacks because they believed they were acting in accordance with their faith. When it's 1, it's 2, it's 3, you can sort of excuse it. But when it's been so many that we've seen over the past 25 years, some fear of this philosophy is a reasonable thing to have. And my issue is there are those who say because not every American Muslim is a terrorist, we're not allowed to say that any are a terrorist.
Well, no, but you're opening the door to someone like Dan Bilzerian saying that he's had a bad experience with 5 Jews, and so therefore all the Jews are bad. Right. They're all fat Jews.
But I would clarify. I'm not saying all Muslims are bad. And by the way, I think is saying all Jews are bad. By the way, every group has bad apples in it. That doesn't mean that the entire group is bad.
No,
and
that's true. But I want to point to something.
Every group is bad. There's no group that's perfect out there.
Okay, but I want to point to something. Because this, to me, may be one of the most troublesome.
Said earlier this year.
Asked dogs or Muslims. You were asked about that, and you said if they force us to choose, the choice between dogs and Muslims is not a difficult one. Mm-hmm. How is that not painting an entire group? Because that's not the same as 4 or 5 people or a lot of people. That's saying Muslims are worse than dogs.
That's not what it says. And again, I think you need to provide the context. I'll provide the context.
Okay.
One of Mayor Mondami's key advisors, Muslim advisors in New York, said dogs are not clean. They should be banned as indoor pets because Muslims coming to New York believe they violate their religion. Finally, Islam is coming to New York City. My point was a very clear one. If you're going to make me choose between my dog and people who want to come to this country and say for them to live here, we must ban dogs, the choice is an easy one. To get back to Bilzerian, I don't know how long we have. I would simply say this. You ask about him as an opponent. A guy who's a foreigner, he's a dual citizen, who has said Donald Trump is a pedophile rapist and should be impeached. That is not a serious candidate in a Republican primary where Donald Trump got over 90%. So he's not a serious candidate. We're not going to spend a lot of time worrying about him because he's running in a Republican primary. And frankly, Republicans love Donald Trump.
What's the problem with a dual citizen running for office?
It was odd that the first thing you said was that
dual citizen.
An immigrant.
That's a great question. Most Americans don't believe dual citizens should be able to serve in Congress. If you're a citizen of another nation where you've pledged an oath to that other country, how can you serve in Congress and live up to your obligation to serve the United States?
By taking an oath. By the way, he served in the U.S. military, so he took an oath to serve in the U.S. military, right?
My understanding is he's taken an oath to protect and defend another country. I just don't believe.
Should
by the way,
he
this is
have been
not,
in the military?
I mean, I don't have a problem with people who serve
Well,
in
if
the
you don't
military.
have a problem with somebody risking their life for the sake of the country, why would you have a problem with a loyalty oath if they're fighting for their lives for the country?
I don't. I think you're conflating a couple of things.
Not.
My point is
No,
very
I'm not.
simple.
I'm not conflating anything.
If you are a citizen of a foreign nation, and by the way, I filed this bill 6 months ago, long before I'd ever heard of this guy. I don't believe that people who are citizens of another country should serve in Congress.
But I just said,
think that's
I
a
just
fairly
asked
mainstream
you.
view.
He was willing to risk his life and take an oath to support and defend our country. If he's willing to do that, you don't think that's enough? Because a lot of people who run, were you in the military? I'm just curious.
I was not, but I've also never taken. I've never let me finish. I've never taken an oath to support and defend another country and then ask to serve in Congress as a result. Look, I serve with lots of veterans. I'm in awe of the service that they give their country. This has nothing to do with military service, but I simply believe that people who've sworn an oath to put the interests of another country above America should not be in Congress. It's not about him. This is a bill that I filed 6 months ago, and by the way, it's something that's been overwhelmingly positive with the people that I serve. Americans generally do not believe people that are citizens of other countries should serve in the American government.
But they should serve in the military. Okay.
I mean, by the way, I know we're almost out of time, Congressman. I know you said you don't view him as a serious candidate, but if there is a groundswell of support for him, would you be willing, down the road, would there be a debate? Would you debate Dan Bilzerian?
You know, we're not going to do any campaign events until after qualifying, but I would be loath to be in any event with someone who's willing to use the N-word as freely as he was willing to do it with you. That's simply not language. It's my view that anyone who can use that word so easily probably uses it in their everyday language, and that's not a word that I believe has any place in the Republican Party, and I'm not interested in platforming it.
Okay. I would agree with you on that word. I would disagree with you on a lot of things that you've said about other groups. So I guess we're at a stalemate.
Thank you for joining us, though. We appreciate it.
Thank you guys for having me.
Thanks again.
Coming up.
Well, this is a huge day for Diddy because there was a hearing in appellate court that could result in him getting out of prison very soon. His lawyers went into this appellate court and they made their argument.
Be right back.
Well, this is a huge day for Diddy because there was a hearing in appellate court that could result in him getting out of prison very soon. And his lawyers went into this appellate court and they made their arguments. And these arguments, we've heard some of these, actually, we've heard both of these arguments during the trial where they were trying to get a dismissal. The judge the trial judge said, no, he's not going to dismiss the case. But it's different in appellate court, right?
I mean, trial judges typically won't really honor something like that. They leave it to the appellate courts. Two arguments. One of them I find really interesting. And they are saying that Diddy was convicted of the Mann Act, which is basically taking somebody across state lines for the purpose of prostitution and sex. And it's been a law with a long history, and they're saying that it's just not applicable in this case because what Diddy was doing was he was doing a porn film. He was doing dress up in a hotel room with his girlfriend and another person that he brought in and paid.
And recording it so that he could play it back later for their enjoyment.
And that it was doing
amateur porn.
It was doing amateur porn like OnlyFans. And by the way, there are probably a lot of collabs on OnlyFans where people do cross state lines. And nobody thinks about that. Oh, of course there are.
But there's no prostitution there.
Well, if they get money for it. They get money for OnlyFans.
They get money from their clients,
nope. If somebody,
from their subscribers.
If one of the OnlyFans creators wants to bring a collaborator on to engage in sex,
sure.
They
and
pay
that person's going to get paid.
Pay that person. They call that the person whose account it is can pay that person. It's what Diddy's lawyers are saying. It's the same thing, and it's protected by the First Amendment, that you can have freedom of expression to record your own porn. Diddy didn't make any money. He actually lost money on it. He was never meant for distribution. It's just like OnlyFans. And they're saying, hey, just, you know, this Mann Act doesn't apply.
That's what undermines the argument, that it wasn't for distribution.
Did the male prostitutes that were hired and flown to wherever to have the freak-offs, did they know that they were going for this to be filmed? Was that an arrangement that was made, or did they show up knowing they're going to have sex and Diddy decided he was going to record it?
Let's say they, two things.
Let's say they didn't.
No, okay, let's say they didn't know.
In fact, because we did hear testimony from one who said he didn't realize that it was going to be recorded. But anyway.
But if he sees the camera before they start, he has the option of saying not doing it.
So a second ago, you said something that is the distinction. I looked this up over the last couple of hours, and you said you were for the point that might be protected by the First Amendment. You said it wasn't for distribution. If it was for distribution, they have a much better argument that it was pornography. I'm sorry, that it was pornography. First Amendment protected pornography.
So you can't do it for your own enjoyment.
So
you have to put it out.
This argument is not new to the courts. People often will say when they're engaged in pornography, when they're engaged in prostitution, that it is no different than pornography. The courts have looked whether or not there is you are running a business. A business meaning filming sexual content for the purpose of distribution and consumption by others, in which case it is First Amendment protected artistic expression. We can argue that all we want, but that's what the courts say. On the other hand, when it is not artistic expression, when it is not intended for distribution and consumption by others, it is not part of a regulated business, and also pornography is highly, highly regulated. You must, no matter how old somebody is, accept their IDs. You must have.
Well, they don't do it on OnlyFans.
They don't.
They do not do that on OnlyFans.
That is correct.
So the horse is out of the barn. Well, look, I mean, the horse is out of the barn. Hold on. I want to address something you just said.
Yeah.
So you can have, you're right, if you just have flat out, I'm bringing you across state lines and we're going to have sex with so-and-so, yeah, it's prostitution and it probably is the Mann Act. What they're saying is that it was done to film, and that the film is the expression. So it's not just a sex act. They were doing a whole theatrical act with costumes and all these other things.
But not for distribution or consumption.
And not for distribution.
So that's not artistic work.
No, it is, because you can do something artistic for yourself and for your loved one.
You can't
so
theoretically.
That's one of the arguments that was made. We'll see how that goes.
By the way, I just want to touch on one thing. The OnlyFans thing, if you brought somebody across state lines and you did not get their identification to make sure they're not over 18.
Yeah, that's another thing.
That would be a crime.
Right, but it's highly unregulated.
But it's still a crime. You could theoretically be prosecuted under the Mann Act for doing that unless you're part of a regulated.
If they're under 18. If they're not.
You still have to go through the process, the regulated process of checking.
They do not. I'm sure they do not check IDs.
I don't know how many people are bringing people across state lines in order to OnlyFans.
Because
that's husbands and wives, boyfriends and girlfriends groups.
Let's leave the boyfriends.
Well, hold on, but
out of it,
just two people who are both on OnlyFans who see each other's work say, "Hey, come over and we'll collab." So come to Florida, and so some guy from New York comes to Florida. They're not going to say, "Let me see your ID."
Clear how often that happens.
Let's get into the second thing.
So the second thing was about the sentence. And that the judge, in giving Diddy his 50-month sentence, took into account things that Diddy was acquitted of, like the sex trafficking. That the judge took those behaviors and that testimony from witnesses, including Cassie and Jane, took that into account when he sentenced him.
The evidence, the force, the coercion, the Cassie video, all of those things were used not for the Mann Act, but they were used for sex trafficking and racketeering. And he was found not guilty on all those. So what they're saying is you shouldn't look at that underlying evidence and use it as an exacerbating factor in giving him a 50-month sentence.
This seems like they have a better chance on
I find
this argument.
As a legal point of view, there's a much more interesting argument. There are all these laws, these acquitted acts laws, that you are allowed to consider some acts for which you're acquitted, but you can't go too far. And it's wonder if the prosecution went too far, but basically restating the entirety of their claim during sentencing. And the judge seemed to take all of that into account in issuing the sentence in this case. So I think this is a more interesting
so what the defense said was that the average sentence, the normal sentence is 15 months, not 50 months. And Diddy has already served 19 months. So what they're saying is that put this in line, and he's done his time.
Yeah.
And he would be out.
And the only reason the judge found these extenuating circumstances to enhance the time, based on the allegations of coercion, et cetera.
Right.
And maybe the defense is saying that shouldn't have been allowed in.
So
they made their arguments.
It'll take a while for the appellate
how long
court
do they?
It depends. I mean, they could do a quick, like, ex parte, or they could just do a thing where they say, release him because of the 15 months, or it could take months to get an opinion.
All right, I'm Smooth from Riverside, California. So my basic premise is that we shouldn't free Diddy. We shouldn't free Diddy at all. First of all, he has been found guilty of 2 counts of the transportation for the Mann Act. He's been found twice guilty. Mm-hmm. With that, it carries up to a maximum of 10 years for individually by itself. So now he's at getting 50 months. I think that's a pretty good deal. He gets out in 2 years. All right? He gets out in 2 years. It's fine. They considered some of the other stuff, which is the abuse on video and all that, which is extenuating circumstances, and that's fine. I don't think that Diddy should be treated differently just because he has money, power, and influence.
See, that's the argument for the defense. He shouldn't be treated differently. Most people get 15, so he should get 15. So that's the problem with the argument, if you say he should be treated like everybody else. But we will see. I mean, we will see what these judges do.
Very interesting.
Coming up.
Well, it has been a very tense week, right? You had the president saying that he was about to wipe an entire civilization off the map. His daughter seemed to be just living her life.
Be right back.
TMZ's got every freaking thing. Big celebs, big stories, big events.
BB Rexa was looking hot on vacation.
Look at the water, too. Did you just say, look at the water?
I mean, I'll be honest, that is what I was looking at. Well, it has been a very tense week, right? You had the president saying that he was about to wipe an entire civilization off the map. We all remember that day on Tuesday where it just felt like, what is about to happen? What is about to happen? So while you were tense about that proclamation from the president, his daughter seemed to be just living her life. And these photos, we got these photos of Ivanka at Disneyland Paris. Video, actually, of her at Disneyland Paris. With the kids having a good old time. Now, I don't want to say...
I don't have a problem with this.
I actually don't
I have no problem with this.
And I said this morning. On Tuesday, while we all felt tense, we were all aware of what the president had said and what might unfold in a few hours. Yes, we were tense about it, but we went about our lives, right? Most people, nobody was curled up in bed. And
what is she supposed to do?
Right. Everyone went out and led their lives, and you thought about it. Now, was Ivanka thinking about what her father had posted that day?
I think everybody was.
Of course she was.
I mean, but look, it's clear the kids are in spring break. She's not in Congress. That would be a whole other thing. But she's not a member of Congress. She's not part of the government.
Right.
And she's
and
really
to that
distances.
Point, yes, she is very much
And her
distanced
husband, who is working in the government, wasn't there as far as we know.
No, was not.
Okay,
well, at least
so
wasn't seen there.
Right. People are getting bent out of shape about this.
This ain't the one.
People get bent out of shape about too many things.
Yeah, well, I don't understand what the expectation...
So you thought we were going to argue with you?
I did not. No, I'm kind of with you. Look, I guess if you were... Here, let me try this. If you were going to make a case that Ivanka should have been doing something that wasn't going to Disney, you could say her husband is one of the 2 main negotiators with Iran, right?
Okay.
It's
so
Jared and Steve.
So what's she supposed to do?
I'm just trying to play devil's advocate here.
I don't know
nothing.
what is she supposed to do?
It's ridiculous. It's
pack a lunch?
Right.
I mean, what is she supposed to do?
Right. Like intervene, talk her dad off the leg. Like I don't. Come on.
And you know, this second time around, Ivanka has completely distanced herself from the administration. She's rarely at any of his events.
She's with her kids.
I would say the one thing I would argue with you guys on that I wasn't bent out of shape or no, that you wasn't freaking out on whenever the deadline was. You guys need to learn to take him seriously, but not literally.
Here we go.
Okay, just
seriously, not literally. Everyone remember that.
Don't start that.
Absorb it. I say, not
when do we
literally.
believe him and when do we not believe him?
Because maybe he's not talking to us. Maybe with those things, he achieved exactly what he wanted to achieve. He gets his 2-week ceasefire here, and they can now work on a deal.
We're losing the war, guys.
We are not. How are we losing the war? I cannot wait to hear
this. They
this.
still have enriched uranium that could build.
We don't know. We don't know.
No, We do know.
Everything was fine when
we
we were
do
just
know.
talking
How do
Disney.
we know?
He even said we'll monitor it to see about dust. I mean, he literally said that. We have not destroyed their enriched uranium that could build 5 to 6
Right.
nuclear bombs.
Okay.
The Strait of Hormuz is now closed and open and closed.
Okay.
But
Right,
the
as the
Iranian,
war's going on.
but the Iranians are running it right now.
Okay.
And we've lost the support from all of our European allies.
Ooh, look at the time. Look at the time.
Oh, so I didn't even get to respond.
Hi, I'm Jackie from Chicago. And for us normies, the whole situation is giving major let them eat cake vibes, right? Because while an entire civilization's existence is being threatened by her daddy, she's in Paris at what? The Tower of Terror? And for what reason? To cosplay fear?
No, because her kids are on spring break.
She could just tune into the news like the rest of us for free if she wants to be that scared so bad.
So let me ask you a question. Do you work?
Yes.
Were you at work on Tuesday?
No.
Why?
Because I have a lot of medical issues right now.
Okay, but it
Calls are
wasn't
sick. We cannot question
No,
anymore.
but it wasn't. But it wasn't because of Donald Trump's threats.
Yes, the amount of stress I've been under listening to the news because of the type of work that I do, I am impacted by the stress. I have an auto
Okay.
that is impacted by the stress levels that is being created, and I'm not even Iranian. I'm not even Lebanese. I can't imagine what the people who have families or relatives that live in those places, what the physical impact of this stress is on them right now.
Oh, that's no doubt.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Coming up.
Cardi B doing Cardi B things, it appears, because her tour stopped in D.C. last night. And there was someone in the audience that you would not expect.
Be right back.
Welcome back to TMZ Live. Cardi B doing Cardi B things, it appears, because her tour stopped in D.C. last night. And there was someone in the audience that you would not expect, because we know that she and Stefon Diggs have broken up, and it did not seem like it was
not
an amicable
no,
breakup
they
at all.
were. She unfollowed him. She made it clear, nothing to do with him.
And yet, for some reason, he was not only in the crowd with his mom and his brother, living it up, loving the show, but they left the show together. That would be Cardi and Stefon.
And as they might say in Mean Girls, it's so Cardi B.
Well,
Yes,
yeah.
Cardi doing Cardi things.
It's very much so known. Cardi, the few people that we've known Cardi to be with, she's broken up with Offset at least.
She divorced him, attempted to twice.
So many
before
times. And then the breakups and the amount of time she said she was going to leave, so many times. We also know that Stefon Diggs' mom is damn near obsessed with Cardi. She loves Cardi. I think this is her second concert that she's actually been to of Cardi's. So they have a kid together. They're going to be family. The family loves her music. They love to support. Don't know if they actually went home together because they did go to an after party.
But the fact that they went in a car together.
They're amicable. They have to talk. They have a kid. They have to talk.
When you get in a car with somebody at a nightclub,
yeah, the kid's not around.
No, but I mean, just because the kid's not around doesn't mean we can't get in the car
So
and
Stefon, what about an outfit for school for?
They're not talking about the kid. They're amicable because of the kid.
You know that there's not a lot of talking, probably.
You know what I thought about when I saw this? Remember when Cardi B, it was like New Year's Eve, and she basically was fighting with Offset, and then she put that tweet out, you know what, I'm going to go get some, because she just doesn't want to find a new guy, and she might be a little horny.
She's
she
not
want to have a little
lazy.
sex.
I mean, you're making her sound just lazy.
Well, it is.
It is. No one has to. She's on tour. She
Kind of.
doesn't have time to be finding a new guy to date and then have sex with after she's already had a sexual relationship with Stefon.
How's this for a take? That Cardi B flies off the handle when she gets mad at somebody, and maybe for good reason.
Right.
But she is quick to end things, and then on reflection, maybe it was
We've
a
had
little
this
hasty.
conversation. She just wants to have friends with benefits, essentially. I don't want to meet a new guy and have to get started all over again.
Offset was a little more than friends.
No, we're not doing
She
that.
married him.
Yeah, but Stefon, she didn't marry Stefon.
Well, I understand that, but she is quick to end it, but she's
And quick to get her to scratch her itch.
I don't think it's even scratching her itch. I think she thinks maybe I was a little rash here.
No, I can tell you that now.
Offset and Cardi B, in my opinion, are a mess. I feel like I don't understand how this Stefon Diggs situation is tied into the whole thing, because you would think that she would have learned from the fact of everything she's gone through with Offset and his alleged crimes that are going on. And now she's going to go get with Stefon, who is basically doing the same thing.
Yeah. End of story.
That hat looks like something Stefon Diggs would wear, actually.
I think he stole it from me, actually.
Yeah. By the way, speaking of her ex, we found out that Cardi did indeed reach out to Offset after the shooting at the casino. Everyone was wondering if, things have not been great between them. Would she actually, like you said, they have kids together.
Yeah.
And she did reach out and they did have a conversation. It's good. He's recovering. He's going to be fine. So the big question everyone's had about Taylor Frankie Paul and her ex, Dakota Mortensen, is why in the hell do these two continue to get back together when it is very clearly a toxic and at times violently toxic relationship? Well, Dakota opened the door a little bit and let people in on their relationship, or at least from his perspective, why he keeps going back. He is on a reality show right now called the Unwell Winter Games. And during the show, he had a conversation with Gleb Savchenko from Dancing with the Stars. He is also on the show. And this is what he said about Taylor. This is what Dakota said about Taylor.
I never have moved on from Taylor, and I was just waiting for her. I was like, maybe I'll have a chance. I found out she was talking to another guy, hooked up with him, then hooked up with me.
Did you know that she hooked up with a guy before?
No, she lied to me. Then had sex with me, and then after tells me. And I was like,
the sex was better with you, so.
Yeah,
well, that's why she came back.
Yeah, and so then that sucked up. Yeah, for a good exactly.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Oh my God.
Wow.
So love that Glove is hyping him up in this situation, but we do have to remember that this was filmed, we were told, like 2 months ago. So this is all before, we obviously got the video of.
But he knew what had happened.
But he knew, right? He's well aware of
course.
He was there.
Barstool.
Yeah.
He was the recipient.
And this is kind of the whole narrative on Secret Lives of Mormon Wives too, of like Dakota just constantly, wanting to get back with Taylor and not hooking up with anyone, but then he hooks up with one of her friends.
Well, this is what I don't understand. He's like shocked that she hooked up with someone else and then hooked up with him.
Yeah.
The whole point, correct me if I'm wrong, Secret Lives of Mormon Wives all started because there were some of those women, including Taylor, who were swingers.
Yeah, that was kind of what put them in the map.
What is he shocked about?
But it wasn't Dakota yet. Dakota was in the picture after the swinging scandal.
But if you know that that's what she was into, there was a good chance. Did he? Oh, he thought that when she got with him, that she would never sleep with anybody else.
Wasn't he also hooking up with other people?
He was hooking up with her friends after they were broken up. So I think he's putting on this act that he's this good guy, waiting for her, hoping for one chance.
I think there should be a policy, 3 bar stools, and we're done.
My name is Megan from Los Angeles, and when it comes to this entire situation, it just feels like we are caught in the middle of the group chat. They're clearly having a pissing contest on who can get the last laugh, and honestly, the only person who's going to lose in this situation is their child.
Yeah, that is a fact.
But children.
Well, they have.
No, I know, but all those.
She has kids.
I know, but I'm saying all those kids are in the middle of this.
Her 3 children.
This chaos, and so I just want to make sure I understand this. So. That was filmed clearly after the incident, but
that was years
before
ago.
the video came out.
Yes, before the video. And also before the February incident that caused them to stop filming Secret Lives of Mormon Wives.
So even after he's talking about this, he hooked up with her again.
Yes.
Yeah.
Coming up.
Spencer Pratt is running for mayor of Los Angeles. And he's serious about this. And he has an old beef from his reality show days with Lauren Conrad. So Lauren was on the Today Show. Jenna Bush Hager brought up that old beef. Her reaction is priceless.
Be right back.
All right, we're going to talk a little politics, LA politics, but really this is about a reality show beef that is now crossing into politics because, as we've told you, Spencer Pratt is running for mayor of Los Angeles. And he's serious about this. And he has an old beef from his reality show days with Lauren Conrad. So Lauren was on the Today Show, And of course, Jenna Bush Hager brought up that old beef and asked what Lauren thought of Spencer running for mayor. And her reaction is priceless.
Would y'all vote for him?
Well, I'm not a resident of Los Angeles.
We're in Orange
Oh,
County.
look, that's a good.
I asked her that on my podcast. I was like, good answer, Lauren. I don't live in LA either, but I mean, I don't know. I think he's on to something. We'll see what happens. I will always have a soft spot for Spencer. I think have
y'all healed any false, like any things, Lauren? Lauren's not looking at me on purpose. Lauren, have y'all, that was good. Lauren, have y'all healed any past beef?
Yeah, sure. Okay, sorry. You're asking me about people I haven't spoken to in decades.
Yeah. Decades.
Yeah.
Look, these two just have had so much beef over the years, and even Spencer came out with a book recently, and he totally trashed Lauren in his book. So we know that these two don't like each other. But what I have noticed here is kind of a theme that a lot of his past co-stars haven't really fully supported him. I mean, Kristen Cavallari kind of did, but like Audrina Patridge did the same thing that LC did, where she's like, oh, I actually don't live in LA, so, not my decision to make. And also Spencer's sister, who kind of has her issues on her own.
Definitely.
She said that it wouldn't be a good idea for Spencer to be mayor of LA, but Spencer did see this clip. He did respond.
Oh, yeah, here's his tweet. He said, pretty sure LC would vote for me if she lived in LA and her kids had to walk over fentanyl zombies and human poop on their way to school. I'm just saying. He's going to paint the picture of LA as this dystopian nightmare.
Been done many times.
Right.
The big thing with him is the fires, and he really did step out in that situation, and it's a big deal, so we will see what happens.
Coming up.
Pretty extraordinary statement from the First Lady, Melania Trump, today at the White House.
The lies linking me with the disgraceful Jeffrey Epstein need to end today.
Be right back.
Pretty extraordinary statement from the First Lady, Melania Trump, today at the White House. She chose to address Jeffrey Epstein rumors. Now, one of the things with the Epstein files coming out that a lot of people were talking about her, and there was a book that was supposed to come out talking about this, that Epstein allegedly introduced Donald Trump to Melania.
So she addressed this, but also said something that honestly does not feel in alignment with her husband.
The lies linking me with the disgraceful Jeffrey Epstein need to end today. The individuals lying about me are devoid of ethical standards, humility, and respect. I do not object to their ignorance, but rather I reject their mean-spirited attempts to defame my reputation. I call on Congress to provide the women who have been victimized by Epstein with a public hearing specifically centered around the survivors.
That is stunning to me because Donald Trump's drumbeat has been, we got to move on from Epstein.
Right.
And she
having
is
the survivors testify
at a public hearing.
A public hearing is not going to make Epstein go away. So it is, you're right, it is.
Well, here's my question. Is this a reset from Pam Bondi? Because there are a lot of people who think she was playing shady with releasing files. And is this a way of kind of resetting it, saying, let's have these
for whoever the new AG is? Is this? You're right. Is this a sign that this is going to be the approach?
That's right. And the other thing is that over the years now, some of these survivors, have been asked, "Are you ever going to name names?" And they said, "If it doesn't happen through the government, we will." And you wonder when that shoe drops.
Right. And it is interesting that maybe this is like her statement may be sort of the herald for what the administration is going to do.
No, it's
forward.
really interesting.
Hey, it's Sydney from Atlanta, Georgia, and Melania's statement was so clear and cutthroat. I mean, she's shutting down these rumors with her entire chest, And I completely get it. Nobody wants their name anywhere near this entire situation. So she said what she said. She didn't hold back. I would do the same exact thing. And honestly, I completely respect it.
You know, I get that part. The part that's intriguing is calling for a public hearing when that is not what her husband, he's been saying the opposite now for a long time.
Yeah.
Coming up.
To put this in Travis Kelce terms, Taylor Swift is in the red zone right now. We're in the zone where the wedding has to happen in the next 3 months if they're gonna get it in before the season. So when Taylor steps out in New York City, everyone is judging her outfit.
She's wearing white.
Be right back.
All right, to put this in Travis Kelce terms, Taylor Swift is in the red zone right now. We're in the zone where the wedding has to happen in the next 3 months if they're gonna get it in before the season. So when Taylor steps out in New York City, everyone is judging her outfit.
She's wearing white.
She's wearing white.
So
This
everybody
must
thinks
mean
that
the
is
wedding
a
is
clue.
about to happen.
So people are saying this is going to happen in June. Makes sense. It has to be early June because he's going to training camp.
So is she signaling something here that it is coming up? Normally I'd say this is ridiculous.
No, people were saying
But
she
we
normally
know-
doesn't wear stuff like this.
Right, and we know that Taylor loves to do things to make her fans think something.
So the question is
it an
this
Easter
going to
egg?
be a bigger spectacular than the Bezos wedding? I don't know that.
I don't think that's their
I don't know if
style.
she wants that.
I don't think it's their style.
I agree.
We will see.